Comedian Anthony Jeselnik was on the Trash Tuesday podcast, with Kalila Kuhn, Annie Lederman, and Esther. And he told the story about when Brendan Schaub was giving him advice on his comedy career, as well as podcasting, and having to come out of his shell to put Brendan Schaub in his place. And the reason why we know this is because of a rat. And that rat would be named BGL Mark Harley, because we know if he sees anything, if he hears anything, he's going to tell everybody, and also spin the narrative just a bit. Also, he's a crybaby, and he likes to report channels to YouTube to get it terminated because he's a hot mess in his real life and he got butthurt. So when that happens, of course you go to YouTube to report to them directly, just like a rat fink. Anyhow, let's go ahead and check out Anthony Jeselnik tell his story about Papa always giving him advice, career advice, because we know Brendan's a marketing genius. Let's go ahead and check out this clip.
But you don't care if people don't like you. You've just never cared.
I try to do things, and if I'm going to be mean, I try to do it in a very concise way that it's like, you kind of have to laugh and respect it, but I'm not, I've said some like really mean stuff, but it's like, I've got to give you some rope, There was a comic who just kept giving me advice. This is like a couple months ago. Just kept being like, oh, you should do this as a podcast, you should do this. And I'm like, trying to be polite for as long as I can. And finally, I'm like, if I need any more career advice, I'll let you know. And the room laughed, and the guy was like, oh, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. And everyone was like, that was really funny. I'm like, I wasn't trying to be mean, but he like didn't give me any choice.
Yeah.
I saw him and Anthony Jeselnik talk before a show one time in the green room, and he had referenced a time before when he was like trying to like give Anthony Jeselnik advice, and it was in front of other people, and he kind of framed it as like, oh yeah, Anthony snapped at me, but I'm like, well yeah, you were trying to like, he's one of the greatest living comics, dude. You know what I mean? Like his specials crush, and he's also like, he's kind of got this mystique where like he doesn't even need to use Instagram or social media. It's just like, like when Anthony Jeselnik drops a special, like I'm watching it, and I've seen him perform enough times where like you obviously know it's like he's all about comedy and doesn't give a fuck. And Brendan tried to say, he's like, oh yeah, well you should try to like this, and like he was kind of giving him like, because Brendan in his mind is like, oh well, I'm like a business and marketing guy, so I'm trying to give Anthony Jeselnik advice, but he made it seem like he's like, Anthony's talking this way, and it's kind of like, hey Brendan, I think I got it. Like he like gives him like, he says that and like winks at him. I'm like, right. That was Anthony Jeselnik's way of being like, hey, you fucking idiot. Don't ever talk to me about anything relating to my career.
When people speculate on the subreddit for The Fighter and the Kid, it's usually a stretch of some sort. But this right here fits like Brendan Schaub's cock in Brian Callen's mouth. Brendan Schaub, of all his failed ventures in stand-up comedy and multiple podcasts, believing that he could advise a successful one of the 1,000 on business practices. Imagine getting 2,000 views with failing business ventures at every turn in every facet, and having the balls to give a comic, a veteran, any sort of advice? Yeah, that's not going to bode well. Don't forget to leave the marketing to Papa. Brendan lives in a delusional world of a narcissist where he's a successful Adonis slinging dig into baddies. Brendan Schaub's arrogance knows no bounds, man. The absolute hubris for the guy who made the effing Gringo Poppy and that shitty You'd Be Surprised, as well as 40 failed podcasts to tell one of the most successful stand-ups working today what he should do. Well, that's just hilarious. Looks like Papa will take it from here. And how many times has Anthony been on Joe Rogan's podcast? Not as often as you, Brendan. So how did comedy go, Schaub? Oh wait, you're retired, my bad. Anthony Jeselnik sells out theaters every weekend. The sheer arrogance for a guy who can't even half-pack a single small comedy club show to give him advice in front of other people is astounding. It's unheard of. You make more money playing clubs than theaters. Brendan actually told Nate or Gotzi he was doing it wrong playing theaters instead of clubs, which is an insane thing to say. Like all these other comics have totally no idea about who is making more money between Brendan Schaub and Tom Segura. Get out of here. Brendan Schaub's way to cope with his miserable situation is used to sabotage other people's careers. Like when he talked Brian Callen out of a Netflix deal, or Theo Vaughn out of a lucrative movie role. I forgot who was the actor that was attached to it. I think it was Chris Pratt. He's the worst kind of friend, same type of guy who will shit on you, put you down in front of a woman just to make himself look better in comparison. Now, if you're dumb enough to take any advice from Brendan seriously, you deserve the consequences. And here's how the way Brendan's brain works. And shit, hell, even maybe Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer at this point. It works like this. You have to milk every single dollar out of your dumbest fans. It blows their mind the Anthony Jeselnik isn't pumping out shitty merch, shitty booze, pay-per-view podcasts, all this nonsense that long-term likely won't pan out and usually fails. So check this out. Brendan Schaub gave advice to Anthony Jeselnik, whose credentials are as follows. He was a writer for Jimmy Fallon, performed comedy roasts on Comedy Central, hosted his own Comedy Central show for 2 seasons, has 3 Netflix specials, among other things. Brendan giving this guy any sort of advice is like me trying to give Steph Curry tips on 3-point shooting. Bappa is so unself-aware. No wonder he's the laughingstock of the comedy scene. You know, screw all that. Anthony Jeselnik could learn from Brendan Schaub because Brendan is literally the hardest working comedian right now. He's the best in the business at comedy, B. The best for brains. He's the white boy who works too much. The ass kicker that tells jokes. And don't forget, Adam Sandler is his biggest fan. Brendan is the business and marketing whisperer to the greats. Even sports networks call him all the time to pick his brain about show ideas. Talk about an industry shark, my mans. You know, right about now, I would love to hear what Anthony Jeselnik thinks of the Gringo Poppy. But here's the thing. What's really important is what you think, so let me know in the comment section down below. But hey, if you guys would do me a huge favor, big favor here, please, if you would hit that subscribe and like button and also push the notification bell on your way out, I would genuinely appreciate that very, very much. Thank you for watching. I'll see all of you in the next video.